Hello and welcome to MahendraGuru.com, the Brahmas for Success, and this is a new series in general awareness, that is End of Confusion. Today's topic at hand is PSL, yes, Priority Sector Lending. We would focus on the definition of PSL and also the different updates and details about Priority Sector Lending. Without further ado, let's see what we have in store in this special session. Now, before discussing the session, the simple solution for knowing any banking topic or any topic of interest to the RBI is the website rbi.org.in. Now, on that particular website, there are certain pages called as FAQ, or frequently asked questions. You can see that on the screen right now. In these particular pages, they have around 10 to 15 questions, and going through those questions, all the confusion regarding any topic concerning the RBI would be clarified. So without further ado, let's see what we have in this particular page. Now, the reason we've used this page is because some terms, some topics and some words are rather skeptical, and we have to decipher what is the exact meaning. First of all, the first question that arises is, what is priority sector lending? Any guesses? Well, it's a rather simple one. It is a lending to those sectors which do not receive adequate funds in a timely manner apart from this lending. To those sectors, this lending is called as priority sector lending. I'll again reiterate. Lending to those sectors which do not receive funds in adequate supply and in a timely manner, those particular lending is called as priority sector lending. Now, as per the latest and the recent updates in terms of the priority sectors, we have 8 sectors in total which are under the priority sector. Number 1, agriculture. Number 2, micro, small and medium enterprises. Number 3, export credit. Number 4, education. Number 5, housing. Number 6, social infrastructure. 7th, renewable energy, and 8th is others. Now, in this particular list, the new entries perhaps could be the medium enterprises and the social infrastructure and the renewable energy. These are the new additions to the 8 priority sectors in total that we have under the PSL. Now, moving forward. Now, if a bank is not careful enough, if a bank is not receptive enough to provide funds to a particular sector, the RBI has clarified certain targets. Now, before discussing the targets, it was started in the early 1970s by a National Credit Council that recommended that there should be a lending to those sectors which are not provided funds in totality by the banks. Those funds were given to those sectors, and that became PSL, that is priority sector lending. Now, a very key role was played by K.S. Krishnaswamy committee that laid forward an idea that around 33.33% of the ANBC, yes, we would discuss that particular term, the adjusted net bank credit should be lent to the priority sectors. So initially it was 33.33%, it led to 40% at this point of time. So discussing the targets and the sub targets of the banks under priority sector, we have to divide the banks into 2 key parts. Exactly. Number 1, the domestic scheduled commercial banks, and number 2, the foreign banks which have 20 branches and above. That is the first part. And the second part you can see on the screen, foreign banks with less than 20 branches. So for deciding the targets and sub targets for banks under priority sector, number 1, again I'll repeat, the domestic scheduled commercial banks. All the scheduled commercial banks that are India born. And all the banks though are scheduled but have head offices outside India, those are foreign banks. So two targets you can see on the screen. Now, in terms of the first target, the overall target, 40% of the adjusted net bank credit should be lent to those sectors in case of the domestic scheduled commercial banks and the foreign banks with 20 branches and above. In the case of foreign banks with less than 20 branches, earlier it was a 32% barrier, but now it is a 40% of ANBC. Here we have a difference. The difference is that starting from the financial year 2015-16 to 2020, they have to enhance their PSL target from 32, 34, 36, 38 to 40% in a phased manner. So unlike the other banks or the domestic scheduled commercial and the foreign bank with 20 branches and more, in the foreign banks with less than 20 branches, the target is 40%, but that they have to achieve in a phased manner starting from 32 and going up to 40%. So that is a big difference. In terms of, if we see the other part, that is a sub target, the agriculture. I would just like the director to zoom in this particular page. Agriculture, 18%, you can see here 18% of A and BC has to be lent. Now you must be wondering, what is the A and BC? Now A and BC is the total credit that has to be lent, including the non-SLR bonds. Yes, the non-statutory liquidity ratio bonds, that total credit is called as the A and BC, or the adjusted net bank credit. So in terms of the agriculture, 18% of A and BC has to be lent to the agriculture sector out of the total 40%, and it is not applicable for the foreign banks because they are starting, their branches are less, so their coverage of the agriculture production or the agriculture area is not enough. So for them there is no particular target. In terms of the micro enterprises, in the third part, 7.5% of ANBC. Again, now in simpler terms you can say that the amount that a bank is allowed to lend overall in a financial year, that could be categorically said ANBC. But if you want to have the exact definition, then a total credit including the non-SLR bond investments, that is perhaps ANBC. But to simpler and to basic banking experience, it is 7.5% of the lending amount that a bank is authorized to lend. So in terms of micro, it is 7.5%, and this is achieved in a phased manner starting from 7% by March 2016 to 7.5% by March 2017, and again it is not applicable to the foreign banks which has less than 20 branches. Then we come to the advances to the weaker sections. It is written clearly here, 10% of ANBC to the weaker sections. So I'll again repeat because this shall come in the examination. There are two parts: domestic scheduled commercial banks, foreign banks with 20 branches and above, and foreign banks 20 branches and less. In the first part, the total target is 40% straight away. But in the foreign banks with less than 20 branches, the target is 40%. But it has to be achieved in a phased manner. That is the difference. Then we have targets in agriculture, 18%, in micro enterprises 7.5%, again achieved in a phased manner, and in the advances to weaker sections, a 10% target. But these sub-targets are not applicable to the foreign banks having less than 20 branches. Moving forward, now there has been a change in terms of the agriculture section because it is perhaps it has perhaps the maximum sort of weightage in terms of PSL. The agriculture is divided into three parts. It is written here: farm credit, agriculture and infrastructure, and ancillary activities. I'll again repeat, the agriculture under the PSL has three parts: farm credit, agriculture infrastructure, and ancillary activities. Now the farm credit could be to different sectors, to SHG and all, agriculture infrastructure to develop the agriculture infrastructure, and the ancillary services, the agri business, the agri clinics. So these are the three parts under the agriculture. Those has to be lent via the PSL. Now first and foremost, there is a question that what is the limit to be sanctioned to micro, small and medium? I'll again repeat, such a question perhaps would not come. The question that could come in the interview, that what is micro, small and medium enterprises? Now for that let me just give you a simple example. In terms of the investment in the plant and machinery, the target has been, the definition has been divided in three parts. For the micro, it is up to 25 lakhs. For small, it is 25 lakhs to 5 crores, and for medium, it is 5 crore to 10 crore. I'll again repeat, the question has come and perhaps would come in the interview, that what is micro and small and medium enterprises? For micro, the investment in plant and machinery is 25 lakhs in the manufacturing sector. For small, it is 25 lakhs to 5 crores, and for the medium it is 5 crores to 10 crores. That definition would suffice for micro, small and medium enterprises. Moving forward and just going through the exact questions perhaps that could come. Now the questions could come perhaps, what is the loan limit in the education under the education? Now if a person is studying in India, the total limit is 10 lakhs, and for a person studying abroad, that is given to a 20 lakh sort of a barrier in terms of the education sector. Similarly, we have different, for example, in terms of the housing sector, housing loans under the priority sector, 28 lakh rupees in the metropolitan centers, that is with population of 10 lakh and above, and for loans up to 20 lakhs in other centers for purchase, construction or dwelling per unit. So these are the difference. There are other differences as well, that the difference as well. For example, in the weaker sections, we've discussed earlier that around 10%, I'll again just show you the most important part. Yes, around 10% of the A and BC is to be invested in the priority, in the weaker sections advances. So for those we have to define what are the weaker sections. Now you can see here around 12 are the categories in terms of the weaker sections. The question that has come in the interviews and examinations: small and marginal farmers. Any farmer owning less than 1 hectare of land, that is a small farmer, and any farmer having 1 to 2 hectares of land, that is, any farmer having less than 1 hectare of land, that is a marginal farmer, and any farmer having between 1 to 2 hectares of land, that is a small farmer. And so similarly we have different sort of categories here. Moving forward and just going to the main highlights of this particular page, PSLCs. Now the acronym has come in terms of asking in full forms, so you have to just go about the exact full form of PSLC, that is priority sector lending certificates. Now this basically is a method or a mechanism that enable banks to achieve the priority sector lending target and the sub targets by purchase of these instruments in the event of shortfall. For example, if a bank is trying to meet its PSL targets, it is falling short, it could invest or purchase certain instruments if it wants to achieve that particular target. For that particular thing, they are awarded with the certificate that is called as the priority sector lending certificates. Now the most crucial part, that is the 13th question here. Yes, I'll just zoom it out. What is the rate of interest for loans under the priority sector? Categorically you have to go through the entire answer for this particular question. The rate of interest on bank loans will be as per directives issued by the Department of Banking and Regulation of RBI from time to time. Priority sector guidelines do not lay down any preferential rate of interest for priority sector loans. So they have categorically stated that the interest rate loans is to be issued by the Department of Banking and Regulation Division of RBI. So in the end, this was all about the basics of the priority sector lending. There are perhaps the certain in-depth analysis as well, but those haven't come in the examination. So we've only focused on those crucial 5 to 6 points that perhaps would come and have come in the examinations. Remember, you were watching this particular video on the PSL on Mahendra Guru's YouTube channel. And in the end, just a simple suggestion that we would continue this particular session of general awareness of end of confusion, going about 10 to 15 minutes about the basics of bank. In terms of the first part was PSL, we would focus on the other parts as well. Thank you so much. Your success is our success. Thank you.